Do you want to know how to play letters from Whitechapel in the easiest way? Let me show you how. Hi players, bonjour from Paris, my name is Asaf Hirsch and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. Today I'm going to show you how to play the revised edition of Letters from Whitechapel by Gabriele Marie and Gianluca Santo Pietro, and I really hope I didn't butcher those names. This is a hidden movement game for 2 to 6 players. A couple of things before we're getting started. First of all is that I did a small mistake and confused between the brown and the yellow pawns in the game. It has really zero effect on the game or on the explanation. I just don't want you guys to be confused during the video, so I also added it on the frame itself. The second thing is that quite a few times I'm referring Jack the Ripper as Mr. Jack for some reason. So it's not because I'm trying to be polite, it just came out this way. So of course every time I'm saying Mr. Jack, I'm referring to Jack the Ripper. Ready to catch Jack or to escape from the police? Let's go to setup. After we have placed the board in the center of the table and the screen of Jack the Ripper next to it, the players need to decide who will play Jack the Ripper and who will play the detectives. It is recommended that the most experienced player will play Jack. In this case, for the setup and the tutorial following it, I will play Jack the Ripper. Mr. Schwed here, that you might remember from another video that I did, will play one detective, and Mr. Cacti here will play another one. Then the detectives distribute between them all the detective pawns. So Mr. Schwed will take one yellow pawn, one green pawn, and will be a gentleman by giving all the rest of the 3 pawns to Mr. Cacti. The player who plays Jack the Ripper will take one move track sheet and will put it behind his screen, just like that. Jack places a black jack pawn on the first knight space on the game board. And then he will secretly choose his hideout. So Jack the Ripper can choose any one of the locations on the board as long as it is not a number with a red circle around it. For this tutorial, I will choose number 100 as my hideout location. I will mark it at the top oval on the spreadsheet and place it back behind the screen. The goal of Jack will be to return to his hideout every night after he committed the murder. The goal of the detectives, of course, will be to catch him before he's doing that. Jack then collects the crime scene markers, the clue markers, the women token, and the coach and alley special movement tokens. Each player will then receive one player aid, or a reference sheet. For the sake of this tutorial, since the board is already very big, we're going to keep those out of the frame. One of the police detectives players shuffles the head of the investigation tiles and places them face down in the designated area on the board. The police detective players collect the wretched pawns and the police patrol tokens. As you can see in each player aid, each knight is divided into 2 parts. Each part has a few phases, and in each phase we'll have either Jack or the detectives doing something. So let's start step by step. First of all, we have Jack collects the special movement tokens, but we already did it in the setup. Second, we have Jack places woman tokens face down on red numbered circles. So let's take a closer look on that. As you can see, I a little bit zoomed in the camera, so it will be a little bit easier for you to see what I am doing. Jack has in his disposal 8 tokens. 5 of them are real, with a red circle on one of the sides, and 3 of them are decoy, which means no red circle. It is white on both sides. All of them need to be placed on a red numbered circles, but he chooses which one to put where. He does it secretly, of course, and he is the only one who knows where are the potential victims and where are the decoy ones. For example, the first token that Jack chooses is a real potential victim. He places it on number 65. Now, of course, he will not show the other players how he did it, so he can just put it down and slide it across the board until he covers the red numbered circle. The third phase of the first part belongs to the police, patrolling the streets. The head of the investigation places the police patrol tokens. In order to do that, the detectives turn the first tile face up, and the player who is controlling the policeman of the corresponding color is the head of the investigation for the current night. In this case, it will be Mr. Schwett, since he's controlling the yellow pawn, and the color of the tile that we drew up is also yellow. Then he takes all the police patrol tokens and places them face down on the squares that have a yellow border, like here or like here. After the head of the investigation for this night has finished placing his tokens, the board's supposed to look like this. And a small reminder, Jack the Ripper doesn't know which token is real and which one is a decoy, and vice versa. The detectives don't know which token is a real potential victim and which one is a decoy. The fourth phase belonged to Jack. The victims are chosen. The woman tokens marked red are replaced with wretched pawns. So, when we want to do this, first of all, we need to flip all the white tokens. And now the detectives also can see which token is marked with a red circle and which one was a decoy. Each token with a red circle will be replaced with a wretched pawn. So now on the board we have 5 wretched pawns, and all the other tokens that were used as decoy are removed from the board. Jack continues to the fifth phase, blood on the streets. Jack chooses between killing or waiting. As you can see in the player aid, if he chooses to kill, we need to jump to phase 8. If he chooses to wait, we will go to number 6. Now me, playing Jack the Ripper, I would choose to commit the murder now and not wait. But I do want to show you what happens when Jack decides to wait. If Jack decides to wait, we'll go to the 6th phase, which belongs to the police. Suspense grows. The time of the crime token is moved and each wretched pawn moves. So we will take this time of the crime token and we'll put it on the Roman number 2. Like this, we show that Jack decided to wait one turn. Now, the head of the investigation will move each white pawn one step with a few restrictions. So now will be a good time to talk about how the police moves and how Jack the Ripper moves. Both Jack and the wretched pawns move on the circled numbers, ignoring all the black squares. And the police are moving only on the black squares, ignoring any circled number. As a reminder, the head of the investigation knows which token is a real patrol and which one is a decoy. So not to say that this video is here to give you any kind of strategical advices, but the head of the investigation probably would like to move all the pawns a little bit closer to the real police. Another movement restriction, both for Jack the Ripper and the white pawns, is that both of them can move only to one adjacent circled number. So what is an adjacent location? Let's take a look over here on number 84. We need to follow the dotted line until we reach another number. So from 84, I can go to 99, 100, 86, 85, 67, 66, and even 51. We cannot go when we have another pawn that is occupying the number. So here this pawn on location 84 will not be able to occupy also location 65 since it is already occupied by another pawn. Another movement restriction for the white pawn in this phase is that it cannot be moved adjacent to a police patrol token. So just for the example, let's say that this police patrol token was on this square. In this case, the head of the investigation, Mr. Schwett, would not be able to move the white pawn on location 84 to location 99, even though it's adjacent to it, just because we have a police patrol token adjacent to this number. Mr. Shwet, the head of the investigation for the night, decides to move some of the pawns a little bit closer to the patrol tokens. So this pawn, for example, will go over here, and this pawn will come here. Pay attention that this is not adjacent to the police officer. This pawn will come over here, and that's it for now, just for the example. In return, Mr. Jack after that can choose one of the tokens and flip it side up. If it is with a colored circle, it immediately being replaced by the police pawn with the corresponding color. Just like that. And the advantage it creates for Mr. Jack is that he can choose now a victim that is potentially a little bit further away from someone who knows is definitely the police. If he would have chosen a token that is not with a color circle behind it, it will be just removed from the board. After we finish this sequence, Jack again decides either to wait another turn or to commit the murder now. As you probably guessed, when the time of the crime token reaches the Roman number 5, Jack can no longer wait and has to commit the murder. Now that we've seen what happens when Jack decides to wait, and we went through phases 6 and 7, let's take back the board to how it was when we finished phase 5. Okay, so as we can see, the time of the crime token is still in its place on the first Roman number. So just like I told you, me, the player who plays Jack the Ripper, I will decide to commit the murder on the first round. So I'm going to jump directly to phase 8, a corpse on the sidewalk. Jack records on his sheet the number of the crime scene. So let's take a closer look on that phase. Now Jack needs to decide which of the 5 pawns he will take. So for our example, I will take the pawn that is on number 27, and I will leave this crime scene token just on it. Right after that, we need to make sure that we wrote the same number on our piece of paper and put it behind our screen. As you can see, I have marked 27 on the first row since this is the first night, and pay attention to the column which is also number 1 since we decided to immediately commit the murder and not wait. After committing the murder, Jack will then put the second black pawn on the Roman number that is corresponding to the time of the kill. In our case, it's the first one. This pawn will help us keep track on Jack movements as the night continues. We will talk about it just in a few more minutes. The last phase, number 9, in the first part, belonged to the police. Alarm whistles. Replace the marked police patrol tokens with the corresponding pawns. So, what we will do now, we will flip every police token on the other side, and we will replace it with the color corresponding to it. In this case, it will be the pawn of Mr. Shwet, the green one. If it's an empty token, we simply remove it from the board. After we have finished, all that is left to do is to remove the white pawns from the board. And with that, we finish the first part and moving on to the second one, hunting. The first phase of the second part belongs to Jack. Escape in the night. Jack moves, records his location, and advances the pawn on the move track. So let's see what my next move is going to be. The location of Jack is now known to all the police detectives. It's over here on 27, since this is exactly where he just committed the murder. As Jack, I will make a very straightforward move in order for the tutorial to be as simple as possible. I will move from location 27 to location 48, which will bring me one step closer to location 100. As a reminder, this is my hideout. He chooses his number secretly, marks it on his paper, just like this, in the column right next to number 27, since we just moved from 27 to number 48. And then moving his pawn one step to the right. This shows the detectives that Jack didn't use one of the special movement tokens and he moved only one step. Keep in mind the restriction that he cannot move over a crossing occupied by the police. We will see it in the next round. The second phase belongs to the police, hunting the monster. Each policeman pawn moves. The detectives then consult together and move the police pawns, starting with the head of the investigation and going clockwise. Each police pawn will move one black square or two, or will stay in his position, ignoring the numbers. Let's see what Mr. Schwetna will decide to do as the head of the investigation for the night, since he's controlling the yellow pawn. He knows, and also the other detective, that Jack's supposed to be in this area, since he just committed the murder here, and he only used one move. So he will decide to bring the yellow pawn a little bit closer. After consulting with his partner, they agreed on that move. The yellow pawn moves 1, 2 squares, ignoring number 98 here. The green pawn will move 1, 2. The blue pawn will move 1 and 2. The red pawn will move 1, 2. And the brown pawn will move 1 and 2. The next phase also belongs to the police. Clues and suspicion. Each policeman pawn either looks for clues or executes an arrest. You must be asking yourself, what does it mean to look for clues or make an arrest? So let's talk about it right now. Each pawn, in his turn, can ask Mr. Jack if he was in one of the adjacent numbers in the current night. For each number being asked, Jack needs to look in his move track sheet in the corresponding night and answer the detective with a yes or a no. Each pawn can ask Jack as many times as he wants for clues, as long as there are still adjacent numbers to it or a clue has been found. In the case of the yellow pawn, he will be able to ask Jack if he was on number 98, and that's it. The red pawn will be able to ask about 85 and 86. As a reminder, a number is adjacent to the pawn if we didn't pass a crossing or a black square. So again, for the yellow it will be 98, but not 82 or 62. For the red it will be 86 or 85, but not 100, and for sure not 99. If the detectives ask for a clue in a specific number and Jack was there in the current night, Jack takes a clue marker and puts it on the number. In this case, the current detective cannot ask for more clues on an adjacent locations. Let's take one more second to talk about making an arrest before we continue the game. Making an arrest means that the detectives are absolutely sure that Jack is in a specific location. In that case, the detective that is adjacent to that specific location can say that he's making an arrest. If the arrest is successful, which means if a detective decided to make an arrest on a specific number and this is the location of Mr. Jack, the game is over, the detectives have won, and Mr. Jack lost. If the arrest is unsuccessful, which means Mr. Jack is not in the current location, then the turn of that specific detective is over. Back to our game, it will be a little bit silly for our detectives to ask for clues, since there is no way Mr. Jack have gone so far after taking only one turn. After finishing the third phase, we're going back to number 1, escaping the night. So again, Jack needs to move, mark it in his move track sheet, and move his pawn one step to the right. Now will be a good time to speak about the special movement tokens. The first one is the coach. The advantage of using the coach is that Jack can move 2 numbers adjacent to each other. The second advantage is that he can jump over a police pawn. Let's say for a moment that Mr. Jack's location is 62, just for the example. And he doesn't want to use a coach, or he already used both of them and he doesn't have any more. He will not be able to go to number 98, since with a single movement he cannot pass a police pawn. Another thing that you should know about the coach is that when you're using this special movement token, you have to do 2 steps. You are not able to do only one or do one and go back. You have to do the 2 steps. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the coach special movement token. I will move from number 48 to number 98, so already 2 steps closer to the location numbered 100. I will record it in the move track sheet, just like this. And now the black pawn will move not only 1 step, but 2 steps to show the detectives that I used the token. Moving to the second phase, hunting the monster, each policeman pawn moves. So after the detectives consult each other, they will move the detective pawns as this. Mr. Shwet, that knows me pretty well, will not change the position of the yellow pawn. Now the detectives can start looking for clues. So the blue detective is asking Jack, have you been on number 97 this night? The answer is of course no. The same for number 117, number 100, number 99, and so on. Let's concentrate on the yellow pawn for one moment. The yellow detective is now asking Jack, have you been on number 98 this night? And Jack needs to look in his move track sheet, and unfortunately the answer is yes. Not only that, but this is actually his current location as we saw. And since the answer is yes, Jack will now put a yellow clue marker. Since the answer to number 98 was positive, the yellow detective cannot continue asking for clues in adjacent numbers. Luckily, there aren't any. Back to phase number 1, escaping the night. I'm really starting to feel the tension over here and that everything is closing in on me. So I will take a chance and I will use the alley special movement token. With the alley special movement token, we can move from one number on a block of houses to another one. Let's take a moment to see what is a block of houses. It's an area on the board game that is completely bounded but not interrupted by dotted lines. So in this example, this will be a block of houses. This shape, on the other hand, is not a block of houses since it is interrupted by another dotted line. So why would I use this special movement? Let's say that right now I feel that this area is a bit too crowded for me, and I feel that if I will continue, I will lose the game. I decide to go back, but I am not able to go from number 98 back to number 62, or for 82, or for 80 for this matter, since here we have a yellow police pawn. With the alley special movement, I am able to go from number 98 to number 82. It's like I'm going inside the alleys of this block of buildings. Back to our game, I will decide to use this alley special movement token, but actually just to try and confuse the detectives. I want them to think like I went back, but I'm actually going to continue forward. So my next action will be to advance to location number 120. After choosing my location, I will mark it on the move track sheet and move the black pawn one step to the right. The detectives now are a bit confused and decide to move in this way. Each detective now will ask for clues in the adjacent locations. Luckily for me, Jack the Ripper, no detective is adjacent to a location that I have been to this current night. The yellow detective decides to be a little bit brave and make an arrest on number 82. Since this is not my current location, the arrest fails and it ends the turn of the yellow pawn, not allowing him to check for clues on number 63 or number 65, for example. For my next move, I will actually go to number 99. It really brings me closer to my hideout, and I feel that being so close to the other detectives will actually make me a little bit of invisible, if we can say that. I will record this number on the move track sheet and move the black pawn one step to the right. A small warning for you guys who are playing Jack the Ripper. If Jack fails to reach his hideout and declare his escape by the end of the last possible move on the move track or on his move track sheet, he loses the game. So you're probably going to ask me, hey Jack, how come you're not taking the coach special movement token to jump directly from position 120 to position 100, since you can do 2 steps and also go over a police pawn? The answer to that is that I cannot use a special movement token in order to reach to my hideout. The detectives continue to be a little bit confused and move in this way. For the third phase, the detectives starting to look for clues. So let's jump on all the no's and go to the one yes that we will receive from the red detective on location 120. In this case, Jack will put another clue token on number 120. For my last movement, I will move directly to location 100. I don't really need to record it on the move track sheet, and once I get onto it, I can say that I reached my destination, I reached to my hideout, and thus the night is over. Just to make sure that we all understand, I don't have to declare that I reached my hideout. I can continue and confuse the detectives and wait a few more moves. But I do want to continue with this tutorial, so I will do just that. I reached my hideout. Let's go over a few things that we need to do before we're moving to the next night. So first of all the clue tokens need to be taken off the board. The special movement tokens also go off the board, and with that, Jack black pawn. The only thing that right now needs to be left on the board is the crime scene token and the police detective's pawns. Now we're moving to the second night, so first of all, let's mark it on the board. And now we go back to the first part. Hell, pay attention that in the second night, Jack collects only 2 coach tokens and the 2 alley tokens he had in the first night. If we are already talking about it, on the third night, Jack will take 2 coach tokens and 1 alley token, and on the fourth night he will take 1 coach token and 1 alley token. Going to the second phase, the targets are identified. Jack places woman tokens face down on the red numbered circles. Only in this night, he will take 7 woman tokens. 4 of them are marked and 3 of them are decoy. In the third night, Jack will take 6 women tokens. 3 of them are marked and 3 of them are decoy. And in the fourth night, Jack will take 4 women tokens, which only 1 of them is actually marked. The other 3 will be decoy. This is very similar to what we did in the first night, but the only exception is that Jack cannot put a token where there is already a crime scene. Here it will be number 27. For the third phase, the detectives again turn over the top tile of the head of the investigation pile. Here we have the blue tile, And if you remember, the blue pawn belongs to Mr. Cacti, the detective over here, so he will be the head of the investigation for the second night. From the second night onwards, the head of the investigation places the police patrol tokens as he wishes among the 7 locations according to the following restrictions. First of all, 5 of the tokens must be placed on the positions that were occupied by the police pawns at the end of the previous night. The 2 other tokens must be placed on the yellow bordered crossing that were not occupied by the policeman pawns at the end of the previous night. So let's see what's going on here. Here we have the 5 pawns in the exact same location as they were in the previous night. Right next to them, we have their tokens. Each pawn needs to be replaced by 1 token, but it doesn't mean that the colors need to correspond. So, for example, we can take the blue token and replace it with a green pawn. For the same matter, we can take an empty token, a decoy one, and replace it with another pawn. After we replaced all of them, we still left with 2 tokens. These 2 tokens can be placed on any black square or crossing with a yellow border. After we have finished phases 2 and 3 in the first part, the board needs to look like this. So let's take a look again and see what we have here. We have the black pawn on the second night. We have 7 police tokens that 5 of them are real and 2 of them are fake. And we have 7 woman tokens that 4 of them are potential victims, which means with a red circle, and 3 of them are decoy. The time of the crime token again goes to the Roman number 1 at the bottom of the board. And from this moment, everything goes again exactly as it was in the first night. I just want to point that in the move track sheet, we will now write the numbers in the second row, since we are in the second night. I just want to take you for one moment to the third night to show you something that we do there a little bit differently. In the third night, Jack needs to kill 2 times, and the second murder will be considered as his first movement. So, let's say that I've chosen the pawns on number 84 and 65. I decide which will be the first victim and which one will be the second one. Number 84 will be the first victim, so I'm leaving the crime scene token over here, and number 65 will be the second victim. So again, I'm leaving another token on the number. This was my actual first move. So now Jack's current location is on number 65, and it is the police turn to play. So from this point onwards, the game will continue exactly as we saw on the first night. Et voilà! So I pretty much think that we covered everything from setting up the board to really seeing phase by phase how the game goes, how the players move, the detectives, the white pawns, Jack of course, all the way through special movement tokens and the winning condition. A few words of my own about the game. I really like it. I think this is a hidden movement game in its most basic form, and I'm not at all saying it in a negative way. I think it's pretty awesome. There are some other titles like Fury of Dracula or Mind Management or a Beast that is supposed to come this year in 2023 and looks very promising, but they all add some elements to enhance maybe the experience of the hidden movement. But Letters from Whitechapel is doing it very straightforward in a very pleasant way. I really feel that the tension goes up with each night, and I remember a few games playing Jack the Ripper. After the first night you're pretty chilled, laid back, and after a few phases you're like declaring, alright, I reached my hideout, and the other players are like looking at you like, go fluff yourself. And after the second or the third night, you're starting to be like a bit more afraid, and the detective's like, all right, we're on to you. So it's a lot of fun, really. There's a lot of interaction between the players, and playing Mr. Jack, you get to see how the detectives think and plan your movement according to it. but it's a great experience. If you've been watching so far, guys, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. If you have any kind of question or something that you would like to say, please leave me a comment or send me a mail. Vous pouvez me contacter en français aussi, bien sûr, avec plaisir. I'm also going to upload a full playthrough of a 2-player game, so you'd be really able to see how the game goes from start to end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and pay your taxes. I'm guessing that's important too after you're subscribing. Thank you very much, take care, and see you next time.